to do to get ready for that same. Look at it from the Eagles' sideline. What was going on? Now we're worried about Carson Wentz and his back. Talk with us a little bit about what's going on with the Eagles.
Well, it looks like Nick Foles is going to quarterback Sunday night's game against the Rams, which is
not necessarily a bad thing.
Right. We've kind of come full circle. Wentz did start that game in L.A. last year that the Eagles won in a shootout, 43-35, and Carson threw 4 touchdown passes, including one after he tore the 2 ligaments in his knee. And that 4th one, that set the single-season record for most touchdowns in a single season by an Eagles quarterback with 33, breaking Norm Snead's record set back in 1967. But he got hurt, and Foles had to come in and finish the job, and, he did. He made a couple key completions on 3rd down to keep the Rams' offense off the field, and he kind of landed that plane, if you will, and brought home the win, and that clinched the NFC East for the Eagles. So we're going to see Nick Foles Sunday night. I think we're going to see Nick Foles the rest of the year, although I got to tell you, it was a very strange press conference that Doug Peterson had on Friday morning. On one hand, he mentioned that this is a 3-month back injury that Carson's going to need to get better from, and it's a stress fracture in his back. But on the other hand, he's only listed as questionable, so he hasn't been ruled out for the game. Actually, he's listed as doubtful now. But Doug said Friday morning before that injury report came out that he would be questionable. So now he's doubtful. But it was just kind of an odd press conference. Doug tried to cut off questions about Carson Wentz after about 2 minutes, and yet we kept asking the questions, and he kept answering them. And for about 10 or 11 minutes, that whole press conference was about Carson Wentz. So, it's a concern that Wentz is now hurt again after being hurt last year with the knee. 2 years ago, he broke a rib in preseason. He did play all 16 games in the regular season, but he did break the rib in the summer of his rookie year, and then he came off his senior year at North Dakota State with a broken wrist. So, that's 4 straight years now that Wentz has not been able to stay healthy, and that's a concern. And this is why the Eagles did not trade Nick Foles in the offseason. Part of it was because they weren't sure when Wentz would be back from the knee injury. He came back in week 3, and Nick played the first 2 games. But now going forward, you have to wonder if Carson can stay healthy. And, you have to look at his contract situation. He's now been in the league for 3 years. He's eligible to renegotiate his rookie deal after 3 years. So there was a school of thought that the Eagles would try to lock him up this offseason. But now you wonder what that does. Will they try to say, look, you haven't stayed healthy. Will you be willing to accept a kind of a cut rate deal, if you will, instead of that $30 million contract per year that you might be looking for? We're only going to offer you 22 or 23 until you show us you can stay healthy, and maybe that money escalates, after 2 or 3 years. So, it's a whole tricky situation. It's going to be something that, I'm going to be following and writing about probably from here till, springtime. But it impacts the Eagles for sure Sunday night with Nick Foles coming in. But the team's confident in him. They talked all week about, Nick being able to get the job done. He's the reigning Super Bowl MVP. So, why wouldn't you have faith that Nick Foles can come in and get this job done on Sunday night?
Well, if I was an Eagles fan, I would not be worried at all by Nick Foles coming in and taking the helm. Rick, what do you got for Ed here? I know that you've been worried about your boy Golden Tate. Are they using him enough? You've got the Bills coming up. What are your thoughts? We'll talk a little bit about your Lions, but anything you've got or questions you have for Ed?
That's not really questions. I was just going to say I'm going to be on the Eagles the rest of the year now. This is the exact same formula of success that they used last year. Carson Wentz takes you 7/8 of the way, then you bring in Foles to get the job done. Foles is now probably going to be a back-to-back Super Bowl MVP, and now the Eagles are going to have a really hard decision. Keep on going with Wentz or with Foles, because now all these teams are going to be like Great White Sharks coming after Foles now, because he's going to be a back-to-back Super Bowl MVP.
Hey Rick, have you swapped out your Tate jersey yet?
My what?
I said, have you swapped out your Golden Tate?
Hey, I was texting Ed, I was like, hey, can you ask Josh Adams? I was more worried about Josh Adams than Golden Tate, if he still has a 33 trucking hat there in Philly. Now, he looked pretty good since he kind of came in. I don't know if he's officially had the starter or what, but he's been playing a lot of minutes lately, so I think he looks pretty good.
Ed, didn't you post a video with him?
I talked to Josh. I talked to
but
Josh
you posted
a lot.
A video.
Sometimes video.
But you posted.
I did.
Did you post a video? Okay, I didn't think I was crazy there, but go ahead, Rick. I mean Ed.
Yes, I did. I did post a video of Josh. A great kid. You know, he doesn't give you a whole lot. You know, he's well schooled in that media relations class they probably teach all 4 years at Notre Dame, how to deal with the media. So he doesn't give you a whole lot. He gives you good answers, good, you know, but nothing controversial. You know, I like Josh, good kid. It's kind of curious. The Eagles really didn't run him last week. They kind of got away from the running game. And, you know, coming into that game against Dallas, Josh Adams had 20 carries, and then I think he had 22 against the Giants and 20 against the Redskins, and the Eagles won both games. And, you know, it's a stat that the Eagles have. When they run the ball 27 or more times in a game, they're 6-0. When they don't run at that number, they're 0-7. So, you know, I don't know why they're not getting Josh Adams more involved, you know, with carrying the ball. He broke off some big runs early against Dallas, and then they kind of got away from him. So I think they only had 14 running plays, and it's not like that game was out of hand where they had to throw it all the time. But the Eagles just chose not to run the ball, and that's perplexing to me. And, you know, Josh Adams is a kid that's gotten better each week. I'm still not sure he's the kind of the prototype NFL running back these days that can catch the ball out of the backfield as easily as he can run it. We really haven't seen them target him much in the pass game. Doug Peterson says he has good hands and he can catch, but again, they're not throwing on the ball, so we really don't have a body of work to look at from in that regard. But I like Adams. I like him, you know, what he gives on the field, and I like what he stands for off the field. And Golden Tate,
hey, Ed.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I always felt like the knock against Josh Adams is that for running back, he's really tall. He's really big. He's 6'3". He's more of a stand-up runner, which is also kind of not the prototypical NFL running back. I've always felt like, you know, at Notre Dame they didn't use him much in the passing game, so I never really knew how they could use him in the passing game. But I always thought the knock against him was just because of how big he is, how tall he is, and how much of a stand-up runner he is.
Yeah,
right.
You know, I was just going to say, I know you were watching the TV broadcast, but I don't know if you heard any of the radio broadcasts, but the radio broadcast goes, well, if this doesn't work out for the Eagles, the 76ers could sure use him. But go ahead.
Josh Adams, I don't know. Has he ever played basketball? I don't.
I think he played some in college, but I think they were just making a thing about it. He is a very tall running back. Go ahead.
Yes, he is a tall runner. But he But what was I going to say about Adams? The thing with him, and I think this is where maybe the Eagles don't use him right, is the Eagles run a lot of plays out of the shotgun, and they have him lined up next to Wentz, or I guess it'll be Foles on Sunday, and they give him the ball out of that formation. To me, Josh Adams is the kind of kid that has to take the ball with your quarterback under center. You know, you get a good head of steam running toward the offensive line when you take the handoff, and you've already kind of reached not full speed, but you've reached a pretty good acceleration in that 7-yard span when you take the handoff. But the Eagles don't really do a lot of under center with their quarterback and run out of that formation. So, you know, they're kind of giving the ball to Adams as he's standing there, and then he has to start the run. And you're seeing him kind of look a little hesitant sometimes when he gets to the line to try to find the hole, whereas he's not getting it with a head of steam. So, you know, again, I'm not sure they're using him right. I think that the Eagles are probably going to end up drafting a running back or maybe making a play for Le'Veon Bell in the offseason. I don't know, but I think they're going to try to bring in a running back because I'm not sure they're, using Adams right, and I'm not sure he can catch the ball. So we'll see. He certainly, if he's not the number one running back, he's certainly a good depth type of a running back who can come in and kind of be a little bit of a change-up for you. So, you know, it's interesting. You know, the Eagles haven't been able to run the ball. He was on the practice squad, Josh Adams, to start the year. If you remember, the first 2 games before they activated him, he was on the practice squad. And then Jay Ajayi got hurt, and they had to bring him up. So I like him. We'll see what the Eagles do going forward at that spot, though.
All right, let's get into the playoff picture talk, if you will, how it's coming together. We'll start with the AFC only because it's the AFC, and that's where the Colts are. We'll start backwards, though. I mean, who would have thunk, starting the year with the Cleveland Browns, somehow underneath the radar, that they could Well, they're not going to win the AFC North, but there is a small possibility that they'll at least be in the wild card chase, if you will. We don't want them anywhere near it, but they could get there. And Pittsburgh's loss to Oakland, how embarrassing was that? And Pittsburgh may not even get into the playoffs, and we'll see if their coach is on the hot seat. We'll get in the hot seat talk. We'll work backwards. Then you've got Miami Dolphins, that win against New England. As I said, freaking believable. I think the world. I think I felt the earth shake underneath my feet when the Dolphins beat the Patriots. How exciting was that? Tennessee Titans are a thorn in our side. We need to totally. We have to beat them, obviously, but they're just a thorn in the side. And then you've got us, the Indianapolis Colts, 7-6. We finish against the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Titans. I have to say I'm most worried about the Cowboys. I think the other two will take care of themselves. We don't even know if the Giants are going to play Eli because, they may not even want to play him, so that might not even be an issue. The Baltimore Ravens, can we all join hands together and sing Kumbaya that we hate the Baltimore Ravens, at least if you're on my side of the fence? Ed, what say you?
Well, I like the Ravens. I like their coach, Harbaugh. He spent some time in Philadelphia as a special teams coordinator.
I'm sorry, you're getting disconnected there, Ed. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm just playing.
I hate to say it to you, but I do like the Ravens. But listen, I love the Colts too. I'm pulling for them. Unfortunately, they had that miracle in Miami last week. Otherwise, the Dolphins are at 6-7, and the Colts at 7-6 would be ahead of them. So. That miracle in Miami was a disaster in Indianapolis because, it didn't help them. But, the Ravens, them and the Steelers are going to probably, they're still battling to win that AFC division there. So, you're right. The Steelers might not make the playoffs. It's really kind of muddled. And you mentioned the Browns in there. They're not. I don't think they're quite ready. They have a big game with the Broncos, who they're kind of still in the wild card race too. But right now, I think the three teams that have 7 wins. Actually, it's more than that. The Steelers have 7. The Ravens have 7, and then you have Dolphins, Colts, and Titans each with 7. So, the Colts have a big game, obviously, with the Cowboys on Sunday. I wish that game was the night game instead of the Eagles and the Rams. I think that the Cowboys-Colts has more appeal to it because I like the way the Colts are playing. That was a big win in Tennessee. We talked about the Colts 2 weeks ago when they kind of laid an egg against the Jaguars at home, and then going out on the road last week in Houston could be beneficial to them to kind of get some of that pressure off. They're a young team. They're still trying to learn to win. So here they are back at home again. And you hope that they kind of learned their lesson 2 weeks ago against Jacksonville, and they don't get too tight, and they don't get they don't tense up in front of the home crowd, and they're able to play free and easy and get a win here against the Cowboys because they need it. But they're right there. The Colts are right there. I like the position that they're in, even if it doesn't result in a playoff berth this year. I think this will leave them hungry going into 2019. So really, it's already been a win-win for the Colts this year.
Rick, I know you got to hop off here. Any final thoughts? We're going to get to Mo who's joined us as well, but go ahead, Rick.
My final thought is just I hate the Browns' business plan this year. It's the first time since I can remember they're not going to get a number 1 pick now in the draft. I don't know what they're thinking. So
we're just happy to be winning.
I just like there's 3 games left of the season, and there's like a small hint of hope of them making a push for a wild card spot. I know it's not going to happen, but just the thought of where we are in the season now, and the Browns still have like a chance to make the playoffs. I think it's really awesome. I think Baker Mayfield is great for Cleveland, and that's my final thought.
All right, we bid you a good week, sir. We'll make sure that we follow you at Rick_Riggin. Is that right?
That is correct.
Is that right?
That's right.
All right, buddy. We'll talk with you soon.
See you, Rick. Good talking to you.
Yep, see ya. Thanks, guys.
Mo from the BS Sports Show joins us with Ed Krantz, our official NFL contributor and beat writer for the NFL. Well, you cover the Browns. That's kind of your territory, your area. What are your thoughts about the Browns? I've always said on this show, be good or be bad, but don't be mediocre. They're kind of falling in that. They're kind of like a guy that hasn't dated in a while. He's finally